You know what? We're just going to get right into this. Like I said, hi everybody, my name is Suris, and in an hour and a half, my president has said that he is going to start the fucking apocalypse. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to go ahead and say, and this video, obviously, it's going to go out on YouTube after this has all gone down, so the information will actually be old by the time it gets there. So I'm going to try to talk about some things that are happening around it that will maintain relevancy even after everything is over. That said, what am I talking about? Because that sounds like I am saying random shit, and like I know that the Seven Mountains Mandate is something that I've talked about, and this is not quite that, but it is close enough. So, okay, let's go ahead and rewind so that we have context for what's going on. What's happening right now is the President of the United States has said in no uncertain terms that he is willing not only to do war crimes, but he is going to commit genocide. Not soft genocide, where we try to eliminate a group of people slowly via various means that are recognized by people who have studied the Holocaust. No, like an actual, we're throwing all of the bombers out, fuck you, genocide. That's the thing that he has claimed he is going to do. Now, a couple things to note. Trump is the kind of person who says he's going to do something and then backs the fuck out. The entire reason that people named him a taco for a while was because it was Trump always chickens out, and then he started doing more and more crazy dumb shit. But let's go ahead and read what he said and what's causing everybody to panic. So, Donald J. Trump, right here, says a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have complete and total regime change, where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionarily wonderful can happen. Who knows? We will find out tonight, one of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world. 47 years of extortion, corruption, and death will finally end. God bless the great people of Iran. So, what is he saying here? He's been trying to get Iran to destabilize further and further so that they will just end up taking down their own government. And can I just say, holding the entirety of a country hostage, saying that if you do not engage in violent regime change against your own government, then we're going to kill all of you? Because, like, make no mistake, in no uncertain terms, that's what he's saying here. So I talked about this a little bit with my editor earlier today, and she had some notes that I think we need to talk about in regards to this. The idea that Iran, as bad as their regime is, they are a fortress country even without their military themselves, but they do have one of the strongest militaries of the region that they are in. Now, because we have had sanctions on Iran as hard as we have had for a very long time, they've basically been further militarizing and further destabilizing to the point where if you really wanted Iran to have a different regime, you would try to do things to stabilize the country. If you want the people of Iran to not yell death to America, then, I don't know, maybe doing things that actually help them long term instead of just throwing a bone every now and again and then, you know, bombing them to fucking Timbuktu. Obviously, there's a lot of history that I'm glazing over here, and even more of it that I don't know because I'm not an expert in any of this. But Iran's never been considered an ally. Now, I do want to note, though, the person who is freaking out about this is Marjorie Taylor Greene, the person who used to be my congresswoman. And it's not just her. You know who else is freaking out about this? Alex fucking Jones. Alex Jones going on to say, war crime alert, Trump on Iran, a whole civilization will die tonight. This is the definition of genocide, destroying an entire civilization or people. Trump literally sounds like an unhinged supervillain from a Marvel comic movie. This is not what we voted for, but I'm gonna actually say that is incorrect. So, what do I mean by that? Well, Alex, Marjorie, both of you need to be able to make your beds on this. because you did vote for it. And not just you, but everybody else who voted for Trump. I believe in reform, but here's the thing. People like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Alex Jones have enriched themselves for years on the suffering of others. So the end result of constantly celebrating people who do the exact same thing, like Donald Trump, it would always end like this. It's always going to end up like this. Now, again, there is always that chance that we pull out of this last second because Trump is Trump and he does this a lot. However, it should be noted that there are a few news organizations that are covering this live. Hell, I'd argue that a lot of people are covering this live right now because they feel like they have to. So let's go ahead and see what's going on here. Shut the fuck up, CBS News. So this is from today. The Iranian regime called on young people to form human chains around the country's power plants as President Trump warns that a whole civilization will die in Iran if the country's theocratic regime does not make a deal to open up the Strait of Hormuz by its 8 p.m. Eastern deadline. Now, this is interesting because I have seen a little bit of reporting on the left that shows the people, wrapping around in human chains, but not actually giving the context that it was Iran's regime that asked all of its people to sacrifice their lives that way. That's really fucking disturbing, right? Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif was negotiating a possible ceasefire. Pakistani government sources close to the talks and a source familiar with the matter told CBS News. U.S. and Israeli strikes escalate even ahead of Mr. Trump's deadline, with Israel acknowledging attacks on Iranian railways and bridges, and the United States launching fresh strikes on the oil export hub of Karg Island. At least 18 civilians were killed by the strikes in one province alone Tuesday, which is when we're talking about this, and that was according to one of the Iranian officials. Also, Ultron, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Jessa says, remember when fucking Al Franken resigned for a distasteful joke? I wish we were back then. And being genocidal, child-raping maniacs, and being genocidal, child-raping maniacs were seen as they are. I would wish that too. So we have a president who has gone on record to say that he will wipe out an entire civilization. And, of course, on top of that, this is the same president who has been doing things that have escalated the idea of the trans genocide in the United States and the ripping away of immigrants in the United States and the jailing of people who have committed no fucking crimes in the United States, all while bailing out all of the people who tried to help him do an insurrection on January 6th. This is the kind of thing that we have to deal with right now. And it's fucking horrifying. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, Alex Jones, and everybody like that needs to own up to the fact that this is what they wanted. But there is at least one piece of shit who is willing to say that, but he's a Canadian, so I don't really count him as a person. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But Steven Crowder is trying to argue that it's fear-mongering to call what the United States plans to do there a war crime. It's fear-mongering to argue that knocking out the entire infrastructure of a country is a war crime. A power plant that also powers hospitals in the region after we've already bombed plenty of schools, that is a war crime. That's bad. That's something that we should say is bad, but Steven Crowder does not want to do that. Steven Crowder is fully on the Trump train. You see, when Donald Trump was outed as a pedophile and a rapist, Steven Crowder decided, hey, I want to stay on board with that guy. That's my guy. I'm going to stick here, and I'm going to keep on defending him. So if we needed any evidence for how and who Steven Crowder is, that would be probably my best example of who he is as a person more than anything else. And that's not a great thing. However, there are other pieces of shit that have chimed in on this. Dinesh also had some shit to say. Now, if you remember, this is the guy that has tried to argue that, like, quantum physics proof God exists, and it's just weird. Ultron says the Democrats hates okay, if you're gonna say things about the Democratic Party, which I also criticize, I would really hope that you would, not engage in minor spelling mistakes. Anyway, Ultron says the Democrats hates not being in charge because they want to be in power. Okay, and the Republicans also hate not being in charge when they're not in power. That's not a criticism, that's politics. Politics is, in short, the idea that there is an amount of power that exists in the government, and if you are trying to become the person elected, you are in fact arguing that you are the person that is going to be more responsible or deserves that power more. That power exists no matter what, but the Dems are mad when they're not in power. Yeah, no fucking shit. The Republicans are mad when they're not in power. Yeah, no fucking shit. They both want power. They just have different ideas of what to do with that power, and one of them inarguably hurts us a lot less when they have that power. But I digress. It's, again, that's not a criticism that means anything in any way, shape, or form. But Dinesh D'Souza popping up here saying, a little frightening, but also exhilarating. Exhilarating! The genocide of an entire people. That's exhilarating to you, my guy. It's important to recognize people of Iran that Trump's going to kill, cowering under the tyranny of the mullahs for half a century. Support this. It is that twisted, brutish civilization that is imperiled, not the great civilization of ancient Persia. No, my guy, I'm sorry, but this is not the fucking take, you goddamn idiot. If any president in any other scenario in United States history in the last, 60, 70 years where we had easy access to the news, actually more than that, radio has been a thing, any president in the history of the United States saying that we were going to wipe out an entire civilization would not be given this kind of fucking grace. And yet, Dinesh, like Steven Crowder, are more than willing to apologize war crimes because, no, I can move the goalposts a little bit. That will be great. That would be great. Oh, and Jessica Davis says Trump has just agreed to a ceasefire for 2 weeks, according to social media. I have not seen that, but let's go ahead and see what's going on there. Did that actually happen? From 12 minutes ago? Yes, I don't know if that's true. Yeah, no, I need sources for things. I'm sorry. I tried looking up Trump ceasefire, and from 12 minutes ago, that's not mentioned at all here. Maybe in 11 minutes that will be shown to be the case, but I'm sorry, social media ain't a source. I don't know what social media we're talking about. I don't know what the specific thing we're talking about is. That said, let's go ahead and see here. I just got sent something from Dorito that says, based on conversations with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir of Pakistan, and wherein they requested that I hold off the destructive force being sent to Iran and subject to the Islamist Republic of Iran, agreeing to complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz, I agree to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of 2 weeks. This will be a double-sided ceasefire. There we go. Okay. There it is. The reason for doing so is that we have already met and exceeded all military objectives and are far along with a definitive agreement concerning long-term peace with Iran. We received a 10-point proposal from Iran and believe it is a workable basis on which to negotiate. Almost all of the various points of the past contention have been agreed to between the United States and Iran, but a 2-week period will allow the agreement to be finalized and consummated. On behalf of the United States of America as president, and also representing the countries of the Middle East, it is an honor to have this long-term problem close to resolution. Thank you for your attention on this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Sylvie, thank you for gifting a sub to Jet. Okay, so again, we're in a situation where our president, despite what I basically said at the beginning of the video, he was going to pull out last second. He always does. But he seems to have gotten the thing that he wanted here. But the way that he went about it, the way that he managed it, was by saying he would genocide a civilization. I just want everybody to remember that. He said he would genocide a civilization, and that's how we got here. That's why Alex Jones is freaking out. That's why Marjorie Taylor Greene is freaking out. That's why Dinesh D'Souza thinks it's exciting for some fucking reason. Make no mistake, when the President of the United States goes on his little fucking tantrum rampages and gets what he wants out of it, which is what's happening here, at least it looks like, we'll see if the ceasefire actually holds, he gets emboldened to do more shit like this. He gets emboldened to do this again and again and again, and then his constituents are going to look at the results of that and go, yep, he got what he wanted. He's the king of negotiating. That's the art of the deal, boyo. But I'm just curious, again, if any other president had done that, if any other person in United States history in a position of power as big as Trump's had done this, would they be getting the same grace? Imagine Obama saying that tonight the entire civilization of insert country here is going to be wiped out. Their entire civilization is going to be deleted. Do you know what kind of a field day Fox News would have had there? Holy fucking shit. Let's see here. Somebody says something about racist things in the chat. I need to look at this. Ultron says, Iran don't care about us because they want to kill all Christians. Stoff says, that's just racist. Stoff, you know that one of the, Iran's regime does kill Christians. That is a thing. That calling an entire civilization's terrorist is just racism. Okay, so at that point, Ultron, the question that you would need to answer is, do you believe that this is all Iranian citizens, or do you believe that this is Iran's regime? Which one is it? Because that's two very different people. That's two very different things. But Iran as a regime 100% does that. Iran's regime. Okay, there we go. That's the delineation. That's what I was figuring. I wanted to give grace on that because I feel like it's always a good idea to. I wanted to make sure that we were on the same page there. Anyway, did you know that both Marjorie Taylor Greene and Alex Jones are calling for us to take America back from Donald Trump? These two people are actively calling for us to use the 25th Amendment to basically engage in a coup against Trump. And, I'm not saying that it's a bad idea, because I would rather him not be in power. But, Jesus Christ. Said insert tug of war meme with Alex Jones and MTG being on the left side. Yup. For the record, the 25th Amendment does not necessarily always mean have a fucking coup, but it does mean the president is removed or resigns or, anything like that. It is the president losing their seat via one method or another. Terranabaster says the fact that it's these two nutcases that are saying it, absolutely. Absolutely. Draconic says, it's weird that Alex of all people is the voice of reason. Yeah, it is weird. It is definitely weird. So there's an America First guy who, we all know what that really means, who, like Alex Jones, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, is incredibly upset with what's going on right now. And the way they're expressing that is to say that they voted for Donald Trump and they got war, Israel first, higher gas prices, large deficits, more spending. My guy. The large deficits and more spending you got in Trump's first term as well. That's what he does. He's never actually cut the deficit that much. I'm sorry. You fell for it again. Higher grocery prices, higher clothing prices, higher vehicle prices. Well, I mean, yeah. Donald Trump has done a lot in his time in office to give tax breaks not to the American people, but to corporations. And then claim that he's giving tax breaks to the American people by giving them things like no tax on overtime, quote, which doesn't really end up lowering your tax burden all that much, and no tax on tip, when if you've ever actually worked in a restaurant, most people aren't reporting their tips anyway, so they already weren't being affected by that. 401k losses, investments being down, devaluation of the dollar. I'm fucking stupid. God, I'm sorry. Now, what's interesting here is that I'm gonna go ahead and take a guess that at least half of these people who are right now flipping out, saying, "Oh nope, I'm not for Trump. I can't be for Trump. I was duped. I was tricked. Oh God, it's all horrible." I'm gonna guess that half of them, in a couple of months, are gonna be perfectly pro-Trump again. My reason I think that is I think that a lot of these people lack spines, and it's one of the reasons why they desperately want a strong man as their person that they can look up to as hard as they can. And what's going to happen is they're going to freak out. They're going to see that there's a bunch of people on the left who might not want to adopt them. They're going to feel politically homeless for a little bit, and then they're going to be back on the MAGA train very, very quickly. And that's really, really fucking silly. Trey says Tucker Carlson posted this yesterday. Let's see what's going on here. I love when I can't hear things.
In the effing straight. How dare you speak that way on Easter morning to the...
Okay, yeah, no, I already planned on covering this, but I'm going to cover this in a separate video. It is a thing I want to talk about, but it's not for this particular video specifically. Now, Fox News did show the people locking arms around Iranian power plants, creating human shields, and then it's, not mentioning the fact that the regime of Iran did say to do that. I'm sorry, that is an important bit of information there. It contextualizes things a little bit. Ultron says it's because God has a plan. Right, so when your best friend, sister, wife, or daughter gets raped, that was part of God's plan. Congratulations. That is the end result of that particular logic. Have fun with that one. I spent my time back when I was a Christian trying to twist my head around that particular one, and I realize now, as an atheist, I didn't have to do all that because I just don't believe in a God now. Anselin says, I have ideas. I know they are bad ideas, but a bitch can dream. Quiet Kitsune says, that's also a bold move since the U.S. military hit a school and didn't care. Again, I think that Iran knows, like the regime knows that their people will die. I don't think they care. I think much like Donald Trump, they view their people as pawns to be used and to pay taxes. And that is about it. Now, Senate Republicans posting, Iran would be wise to take President Trump as his word. They can choose the easy way or the hard way. Now, I'm just curious. When your president says that he's going to genocide a nation, because that's what he claimed he was going to do, and then, of course, he backed out of it. We'll see what happens in 2 weeks. But when he claims he's going to genocide a nation, and then everybody who is supposed to be behind him says that, hey, they actually would like to bolster that. Does that not scare the shit out of you? Does that not make you feel like, hey, the minute that Trump turns that gun to any other ally or even American citizens, that the elected officials that the American citizens actually got elected will turn on them too? Because that's what it signals to me. It signals to me that it is not safe anywhere in the world as long as President Trump is in power. Because if he's going to do the things he did during his first regime, where he was perfectly fine smoke bombing people who were sitting outside of churches just so we could get a fucking photo op, and then we have this I'm willing to threaten genocide on an entire nation Donald Trump, I feel like somewhere between those two variants of the same person, we have every reason to be a little worried, right? Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Tanek says that the regime likely voluntold people it disliked most to put on human shield duty. I don't think it even put people they disliked most there specifically. I think they just put out an all call, and then they knew that people were going to have to do it, because if they didn't, they would be expected to explain themselves and then die. Dear Dave says, important. What is this? Mere seconds after President Donald Trump announced what is called a two-sided ceasefire with Iran, ballistic missile launches against Israel by Iran have again been detected. Air defenses are working to mitigate the threat. So the fucking ceasefire can't hold! What? The ceasefire got violated seconds after it started? You fucking morons! Everybody involved in this story is a goddamn idiot. Our president calling for the genocide of a nation is an idiot. Iran is made up of a bunch of fucking idiots for trying to egg this shit. Dear God, everybody here, all of them, nightmarishly stupid. Also, again, what were the words I said? Literally, after the post was read about Trump. My words were, we'll see how long that holds. Because both of these sides have shown they're fucking irresponsible with any amount of power. With any amount of power at all. Now, there are some people that have had some opinions on this that I think are a little interesting. Bubba here is pointing out that the reaction from the online right has been nothing but pathetic, and what they're talking about is the people who abandoned Trump basically the minute that he started talking about doing the genocide, or realistically, let's be honest, the thing that's actually affected most Republican constituents, the thing that's actually made them upset, is the fact that gas prices got a little too expansive. That's what it is. Donald Trump can be found in the Epstein files, and they won't blink an eye. They'll even make excuses. Donald Trump can order the bombing of a school, and they won't blink an eye. They'll even make excuses. Donald Trump can be the head over an operation that double taps boats, committing constant war crimes, and people won't blink an eye. They'll make excuses. But the minute they have to pay another $1.50 for gas, that's when they care. That's when they start freaking out. I promise you, if the $1.50 rise in gas, at least that's what it was in Georgia, if the rise in gas had not happened first, you wouldn't have as many people going against the president right now because they wouldn't have been activated to do so. 10x says, I mean, Donnie can harm children and they shrug. Exactly. The only reason that they are primed to give a shit that our president said, hey, I'm going to go do a genocide, is because they basically are upset with him because they had to spend an extra $15 to fill up their car. Dorita Dave says, I don't know if you know, but the $1.50 doesn't include the fact that Kemp took off 33-cent gallon gas tax for Georgia. Ah, okay. Somebody says, this is why I do not like humans. They only care about inconvenience against themselves than literally anything else. I think that viewing people as a group is always a mistake. Because think about this. What I just said about Republican constituents, there's going to be somebody who's an exception to that rule. There's going to be somebody who says that that is an issue. The broader you make a group, the more mistakes you make with broad sweeping statements. I am willing to make some broad sweeping statements if I think that it is applicable in most situations, but even then you're going to find exceptions. I don't think all humans only care about inconvenience for themselves. I think that can be pretty well demonstrated by humans who engage in actual charity. What do we have here as well? And then, this is the thing with Tucker Carlson that I want to talk about. Dorita says, all Christians are garbage, fight me. Yeah, I'll fight you on that. As somebody with plenty of friends who are Christian, I will fight you on that. Very, very easy. I'm sorry. I think that's a stupid statement. And I mean, I know you're saying it because it will provoke a response. I know that's exactly why you're doing it. But anyway, so that's what's going on right now with, it said, am not fight me. Okay. I'm also not willing to get on a call with you on stream because I know what that ends up doing. It ends up taking up the entire stream with ADHD nonsense, and then I am unable to actually concentrate on my work. So instead, I'm just going to tell you you're wrong because there's just as many people who use Christianity as their argument for doing good as there are who will use it to do bad. So the existence of them immediately means you're incorrect. I apologize. Except I don't really apologize. Anyway, so this was something. And by the time this goes up on the channel, there will be like 3 other somethings that have happened in this exact story. Fuck the news. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, you know I'm not saying that last part, Sylvie Snow, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.